Here, as the Trump administration is sending more than 100 federal immigration officials to the Bay Area. The first are expected to arrive at Alameda's Coast Guard Island this morning. KTVU's Ali Rasmus live outside the Coast Guard entrance to show us what's happening there right now, Ali.
Well, there's a larger group of protesters here in front of Coast Guard Island here at the Alameda Oakland City line, and we want to show you also the backup because the protesters are walking across the crosswalk here. They've got signs. There's probably about 50 to 60 people. Looks like there's Coast Guard police kind of monitoring the group walking back and forth. And this is the backup, though, to get to Coast Guard Island. You can see dozens of cars, people trying to swerve and get around this group, not able to enter because of the protesters here. This protest in response to reports that the Trump administration is sending more than 100 federal immigration officials here to the Bay Area, and Coast Guard Island in Alameda is supposed to be their base of operations. But there's a number of civilian jobs on Coast Guard Island. We spoke with a woman who works at a daycare here on the island. She got a call this morning telling her that the daycare is going to be closed.
Not to come in.
Did they say why?
I guess it's, all this happening, it's safety issues, And you want to keep children safe. You want to keep the parents safe.
What do you think about federal immigration enforcement officers coming here?
What am I supposed to think? That's their business. It's not my business. I can't do nothing about it, so I can't make them stop. That's the government. This is government property. If that's where they're supposed to go, then that's where they're supposed to go.
The Trump administration's immigration actions here in the Bay Area follow similar operations in cities like Chicago, Portland, and Los Angeles. The president had signaled for weeks now that San Francisco and the Bay Area was on his target list.
San Francisco was truly one of the great cities of the world. And then 15 years ago, it went wrong. It went woke.
It's the authoritarian playbook. You announce your intention to send the military to streets, doing domestic policing operations. You wildly overstate or completely make up crime statistics that are not real, that do not justify such action. And for this administration, you send first masked men to the cities that you want to militarize.
Now, the Coast Guard issued a statement explaining its involvement here, saying, quote, through a whole of government approach, we are leveraging our unique authorities and capabilities to detect, deter, and interdict illegal aliens, narco-terrorists, and individuals intent on terrorism and other hostile activity before they reach our border, end quote. The Department of Homeland Security also sent a statement to KTVU about this operation, saying, quote, DHS is targeting the worst of the worst criminal illegal aliens, including murderers, rapists, gang members, pedophiles, and terrorists, in cities such as Portland, Chicago, Memphis, and San Francisco. As it does every day, DHS law enforcement will enforce the laws of our nation, end quote. However, local leaders and civil rights groups and protesters here say they simply don't believe that is truly DHS's objective here with these immigration operations, not just in San Francisco, but across the country. They point out that in immigration operations in other cities like Chicago and Los Angeles, U.S. citizens and U.S. citizen children were mistakenly arrested by authorities, and other eyewitness reports of their tactics being heavy-handed and overly militaristic. So again, back out here live in front of Coast Guard Island here, which is where the base of operations is supposed to be for this immigration enforcement activity. You can see there's about I'd say the number of protesters here is probably 60 to 80, maybe close to 100. They've got a number of signs out here. At this point, they're walking in front of the crosswalk so that none of the vehicles that would be heading into Coast Guard Island can pass through. That's led to a big backup in this area. Again, as we learned this morning, there are a number of civilian jobs and civilian workers who come to Coast Guard Island every day. So we don't know if any of the people here waiting to get in have any connection whatsoever to immigration enforcement. But it's a developing situation. We'll be out here throughout the morning to update you on this story. Live in Oakland, Ali Rasmus, KTVU, Fox 2 News.
All right, Ali, thank you. Time now, 7:05, and joining us now is immigration attorney Jonathan Dunton to talk more about the deployment of federal agents. Jonathan, first of all, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Dave.
And how do you size up how this deployment here in the Bay Area is beginning?
Well, it's pretty early to tell since
Yeah.
they've mentioned 100 coming out. I've heard they expect as many as 2,500 before too long. Right now, we have, from what I understand, DHS officers, but there's been talk that ultimately the National Guard would be called up, and that's where I think the legal issue is going to become more poignant, because we're going to be asking whether the circumstance on the ground is sufficient to justify invoking Title 10 and the Insurrection Act to support the and justify the president's authority to make that call.
And what's your advice for the protesters, like the ones we just saw in Ali Rasmussen's report? How should they behave? How should they approach what's happening now?
Well, I think it's going to be a fine line between exercising our First Amendment rights and not impeding lawful enforcement operations. And so it's going to be upon each individual to try and determine for themselves if they are attempting to obstruct a lawful operation or not. And so it's going to be a tough decision. That's going to be a case by case.
Yeah. And are you concerned about what may happen at Bay Area schools with these operations underway now?
Absolutely. We've seen this before with previous enforcement operations in the past. It's created quite a bit of fear amongst the community, kept families from taking their children to school, going to work. So I think that we are going to see a significant change in our community's landscape in the next couple of weeks.
Hey, Jonathan, we know that later today there are protests planned in San Francisco, in Oakland, in San Jose, in other areas. Do you think protests will be effective?
I believe that people are very passionate about what is happening, and they want to voice their opinions and make it be known to their fellow U.S. citizens. So I don't anticipate there being a significant change. My hope is that people will be able to maintain calm and avoid escalating an already tense situation.
Yeah, Jonathan, before you go, one last question. Will the Bay Area ever be the same again after this operation here?
I don't think our country will ever be the same.
Yeah. Jonathan Dunton of Dunton Law Immigration, an attorney, we thank you for joining us and thank you for your expertise. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave. My pleasure. Have a good morning.
All right, Jonathan. Well, we want to hear what you think about all of this. It's part of our viewer poll of the day. We're asking this: do you think federal immigration officers should be deployed here in the Bay Area? You can answer yes or no. Just go to KTVU.com/vote to weigh in. You can see some of you are already voting, and we're glad to see that. Look at the right-hand corner of your screen. You can get onto our poll right through there and just continue to vote.
Time is 7:09. The biggest name in the Democratic Party joined Governor Newsom for a live-streamed event supporting Proposition 50. Former President Barack Obama joined the governor, urging voters to vote yes on 50, which would temporarily change California's congressional districts to favor Democrats. Mr. Obama accused President Trump and Republicans nationwide of trying to skew the 2026 midterm elections in their favor while protecting themselves from potential voter backlash.
Our current president and his administration is explicitly saying that we want to change the rules of the game midstream in order to insulate ourselves from the people's judgment.
Thank you for being here, and everybody, thank you for
Almost twice as many Democratic ballots have already been returned compared to those from Republicans, mirroring statewide voter registration.
Well, North Carolina lawmakers gave final approval to a new congressional map backed by President Trump. The plan is expected to help Republicans pick up an extra House seat next year by adding more conservative voters to that state's only swing district, which is currently held by a Democrat. Republicans already hold 10 of North Carolina's 14 seats. Now, the plan can't be vetoed by North Carolina's Democratic governor, but legal challenges are expected. Other Republican-led states are not having any luck passing their new congressional maps. Indiana Republicans say they just don't have enough support to pass their redistricting effort. Indiana drew its current maps in 2021, and the next update isn't due until after the year 2030. The Indiana Black Legislative Caucus says a change would dilute black voting power and would affect specific areas, including East Chicago and Gary, Indiana.
It's 7:11. We do have the typical slow traffic this morning at the Bay Bridge. Let's go there. You can see it is backed up to the maze. Metering lights are on. Nothing unusual about that, but we've had pretty stiff traffic on the San Mateo and the Dumbarton bridges. And this morning, Highway 4, slow traffic from Summersville to Willow Pass. Doesn't look bad on 242, but we do have some slow traffic on 680. And then as you look at 880, it's slow from 238 in pockets all the way down into Fremont. 7:12. Let's go back to the desk.
All right, Sal, we're hearing from State Senator Scott Wiener after he launched his run for Congress to replace former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. The reason he could make history if he wins that seat.
Jacoby & Myers has been a proud part of the California community since 1972. We've stood by our neighbors, helping hundreds of thousands of families get the justice they deserve. Whether it's fighting insurance companies or fighting for you in court, we'll stand up for you. At Jacoby & Myers, we know the stakes: your family, your health, your future. For over 50 years, we've been California's trusted name in legal care. If you've been injured, call us today at 1-800-5-MILLION, because you deserve justice.
Welcome back to Mornings on 2. It's 7:15. State Senator Scott Wiener tells us he's ready to fight for the people of San Francisco as he kicks off his run for Congress, targeting a seat held for years by former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
Wiener has served in Sacramento since 2016 now, after 2 terms on the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. He touted his work promoting housing in the city, as well as advocating for undocumented immigrants and the LGBTQ+ community, also standing up to President Trump. If elected, he'd be the first openly gay person to represent San Francisco in Congress.
We're definitely in a moment in time where we need fighters. We need Democrats who are willing, not just willing to fight, but able to fight. And I think I've shown over and over again that I'm willing to take on very hard fights.
Representative Pelosi's office tells KTVU that she's focused on promoting Proposition 50 and won't announce a decision on her future until after the November special election.
I think we've been hearing a lot in the Democratic Party in particular about concerns that there are a lot of folks leading the party that are getting older. It is somewhat surprising that he's announcing now before Nancy Pelosi's made her decision. But at the same time, we've seen in the past that sometimes younger progressive members of Congress are tired of waiting their turn and decide to go ahead and challenge the incumbent.
Now, Scott Wiener is running against Shoykad Chakrabarti, a former chief of staff for Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. He's also a tech engineer and an advocate for climate change. Now, Chakrabarti responded to Scott Wiener's announcement. He said, in part, Scott has experience tinkering with regulations in an overwhelmingly Democratic Sacramento. My work launching the Green New Deal as AOC's chief of staff paved the way for the largest climate change investment in history.
We have some breaking news here as Border Patrol trucks, we're told, just rolled onto Coast Guard Island in Alameda. A large crowd of protesters has been there throughout the morning. We've been bringing you live pictures of the situation. Now that it's daylight, we can get a much better read on exactly what's happening. You are looking here at a live picture of what's happening there on Coast Guard Island. We should note we have a number of crews in the area. They tell us they did see some pushing and shoving happening between law enforcement and protesters. From this picture, we see a number of people holding signs, marching what appears to be a peaceful gathering, though emotions certainly are running high. We will, of course, stay on top of what's happening. This is news that we really started covering yesterday once we got that definitive word that the Trump administration was sending about 100 federal agents to the Bay Area, specifically here to Coast Guard Island in Alameda. So people started, talking about this amongst their own families and communities. We see here our James Torres. Again, a live look here. We understand that there was a bit of pushing and shoving, but at least from this picture, no, real tumult.
Right.
But, it is early in the day, and people here in the Bay Area concerned about immigration enforcement are reminding those to stay peaceful. Becoming agitated and confrontational, and in their words, helps nothing.
It's very emotional, and we're out there live, and we'll bring it to you here on Mornings on 2. We'll also bring you your morning commute as well. Sal's watching everything. Sal?
All right, we do have a lot of crowding out there, as you might imagine. We're going to start with the East Bay and show you that 880 is very slow from 238 into Fremont, and southbound 680 past Mission Boulevard. Been a couple of crashes, so 680 is very slow out of Pleasanton, getting down through the Sonoma grade. Sonoma grade is a mess right now. I wanted to let you know that traffic is going to be slow. If you are driving on the San Mateo Bridge, it's very slow. And of course, the Bay Bridge is backed up to the MacArthur Maze. What about today's weather? Let's bring Steve back.
It's a lot of pressure, Sal, but
I know.
Thank you, sir. All right, we'll get to it here. There's a little chill in the morning here after yesterday's system. Boy, it felt fall-like to me yesterday afternoon. It was cloudy, mostly cloudy. Byproduct of some cooler lows. Middletown, Kenwood, Healdsburg, Woodside, Boulder Creek, Sonoma, Fairfax, Pinole, all between 40 and 46. And Livermore is also at 46 degrees. San Rafael, Pleasant Hill, Menlo Park, and San Jose. Up we go, 74, 74, 73, and 72 on Steve's forecast highs. 47 Petaluma, there's Sonoma's 45, Napa's 48, 47 Menlo Park, 46 Palo Alto, 49 Concord, Walnut Creek. We're good to go today. Let me center this a little bit. There you go. We're centered that. Except for the low cloud deck, we will clear out and we'll have sunshine today. Leading edge of that next system is to the north. It'll start to increase clouds tomorrow. Lots of moisture coming across, but without question, the line just, I can't get around it. It's about Marin County, Golden Gate Bridge, San Pablo Bay North is the way it looks. You know, it might be raining in Benicia and Vallejo and not much in Concord. It's one of those kind of patterns, the way it looks. Nice, nice, very nice. After the morning low clouds, mostly sunny skies, 60s, 70s. I would, if you're north, no doubt about it, have a plan B. If you're south, it may not amount to anything for the weekend rain. It'll be cooler than a rebound for early next week.
All right, Steve, thank you. Time 7:20. The 49ers pretty banged up, but still hoping to win this Sunday against the Houston Texans. We have the latest on 49er injuries and who's been healthy enough to practice this week.
Welcome back to Mornings on 2, a live look here at the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk. It is firmly in fall season-wise, and we had a couple warm, sunny days at the front end of this week, but the weather has changed. We see a bit of a flag waving at the top left corner here. Things are cooling down, and not just in Santa Cruz. Let's bring things back to the Bay here and give you some new information. Breaking news this morning, as there has just been a physical confrontation between protesters and security and police officers right outside Alameda's Coast Guard Island. We'll head back to our Ali Rasmus here, where tensions appear to be rising. Ali.
Yeah, well, there's about 100 protesters out here walking in front of the crosswalk to the entrance to Coast Guard Island. And we showed you about 30 minutes ago, it has led to a backup of cars trying to get in and drive in. Now, many of the vehicles we've seen driving in appear to be civilian vehicles. What was different, though, is about 15 minutes ago, there were about 5 to 8 Customs and Border Patrol vehicles, law enforcement vehicles, clearly trying to drive in, and the protesters spotted them, and the protesters kind of closed ranks and stood in front of the crosswalk, very packed, kind of like you see here, and tried to prevent those CPB vehicles from driving through. That led to a couple of the CBP officers getting out of their vehicles. They were wearing tactical gear, vests that clearly identified them as Customs and Border Patrol, and they got out and they tried to talk to the protesters. And I believe the words that one of them said was, "It is not safe for you guys. Move out of the way." And at that point, some of the protesters said, well, why is it not safe for us here? What are you, basically implying, what are you going to do? So at a certain point, there were at least 2 flashbangs, grenades deployed. We heard a loud boom and popping sound, and some of the protesters dispersed. And back out here, you see a lot of them have come out, and they're kind of filling in the ranks of this crosswalk so that to make it difficult for vehicles to pass through. But then, you know, as we mentioned 15 minutes ago, there was this confrontation between these Customs and Border Patrol agents and some of the protesters. There were smoke bombs that went off. Some of the protesters had to disperse, and then these CPB vehicles kind of aggressively drove through. So tensions were pretty heated out here. Next time around, we do have some video of that confrontation to show you, and we'll bring you that update. And then our next live hit here on Mornings on 2. Back to you, Garcia.
Ali Rasmus, thank you. We'll watch for that new video in a minute here. New this morning, an NBA head coach and current player have been arrested in connection to a federal gambling investigation. Chauncey Billups played for the Detroit Pistons before becoming the coach of the Portland Trail Blazers. Terry Rozier is a guard with the Miami Heat. Both were taken into custody. They're set to appear in court later this afternoon. There's a news conference happening right now in New York City on this. It features the FBI Director, Kash Patel, along with federal prosecutors and officials from Homeland Security. We know more than 30 people were taken into custody, some in the sports world, others connected to the mafia, according to the officials who are speaking. We'll have this developing story for you as we learn more.
All right, Garcia, time 7:26. The 49ers return to practice ahead of their Week 8 matchup in Houston against the Texans. Quarterback Brock Purdy was there at practice, but he was considered limited. Head coach Kyle Shanahan gave no updates about Brock's toe injury, but said it's a reach that Brock Purdy will start on Sunday. Now, here's a look at the players who did not practice because of injuries. It includes wide receiver Ricky Pearsall. Now, Sunday's kickoff in Houston set for 10 a.m., and you'll see it right here on KTVU Fox 2.
As federal subsidies wind down, some people are now getting an idea of the full cost of their health insurance. The first state feeling the sting of premium hikes, and why critics warn it's a preview of what's to come nationwide.
And the White House now urging the nation's ranchers reduce prices, why American beef producers are firing back as the Trump administration looks at new imports from Argentina.
We stand at the ready to stand with our immigrant community members and ensure that they have access to as much as we can provide.
Fear and uncertainty gripping the Bay Area, anticipating possible federal immigration raids. We'll tell you about the round-the-clock efforts to protect immigrant families. And the same federal court that once supported the president's powers to send in troops may now be reversing that opinion. We'll tell you why they're now questioning his use of the National Guard around the country.
From KTVU Fox 2 News, this is Mornings on 2.
Well, good morning and welcome back to Mornings on 2. I'm Dave Clark.
I'm Garcia Michaeli, and it is a busy Thursday, October 23rd. Weather's a part of that. We're a world away from where we were on Monday and Tuesday, Steve.
What happened Monday? That was so long ago.
We were sweating.
Oh, that's right. And then we had some rain yesterday and a really cool day. So this topsy-turvy October continues. I don't think that'll change much. My 2 cents is November will be quiet, and then December is going to rain and rain and rain. But I'm getting ahead of myself. 40s on a lot of the temps this morning. 40s to 50s on the temps. Low clouds for some, not for others. Yesterday, some pretty good rain. Yosemite at the South Gate, 0.62. Not the Tannhauser Gate, but the South Gate there. And also around other areas had a half-inch. Pacific Grove picked up a 0.04, Monterey 0.05, and Hollister from thunderstorms of 0.04 as well. That system is long gone. We're looking good today, but it's a little chill in the air. 40 from Middletown to Pinolles, 46, but look for mostly sunny skies today, highs 60s, 70s. All right, Sal's here. Good, bad, indifferent. Where are we going?
It's about middle. It's not great, but it's not terrible. Let's go to Interstate 880 in Oakland. I want to show you that traffic is getting busier driving up past the Coliseum. If you're going to the Bay Bridge, it is backed up all the way out to the Maze, which is not unusual. If you look at the San Mateo Bridge, it's been busy from 880 all the way out to 101. And Highway 4 slows from Summersville Road. That's a slow one. So all the main commutes are pretty jam-packed on this Thursday. 7:33, let's get back to the headlines.
And straight to that breaking news in the East Bay here, as federal officers and demonstrators have just clashed outside Alameda's Coast Guard Island as those vehicles tried to get onto the base. This scene playing out here, this is the first time we've been able to see video of what happened there, that confrontation. Let's go to our James Torres here. You were there as everything sort of ratcheted up a notch, James.
Yeah, it was a period of 5 minutes that got incredibly tense. Garcia, good morning to you. We have seen these protesters build up here since about 4:30, 5 o'clock this morning, slowly building up. Now we see dozens of people out here holding signs, all blocking the crosswalk here that leads into Coast Guard Island, creating this enormous backup here. Traffic, for the most part, along the Embarcadero pretty much stalled at this point as these protesters are here making their message known, making it clear that they do not want the presence of federal agents here. We'll flip around behind me. We'll show you what this looks like here. You see the signs, most of them saying no ICE or troops in the Bay. You see the car that is trying to get through here. There are U.S. Coast Guard officers on the other side of this protest line. You heard the flashbangs that they launched earlier just a few minutes ago. You also might have seen what looked like some sort of substance thrown in the face of a local reverend. We just spoke to him a minute ago. He says that he is in shock. These protesters say that they are here mostly peacefully. They are here just to get their message across and hold these signs and protest. They are accusing the officers of being aggressors here, those officers standing back behind the protest line and trying to make sure that the cars that need to get into Coast Guard Island are getting through. Now, the first round of what you might call the first round of protests, that started late last night. That's when people wrote anti-ICE graffiti on dumpsters. They put a number of rocks and boulders in the middle of the roadway, seemingly trying to prevent the cars from getting from the road and preventing them from crossing the bridge. We saw personnel early this morning move those rocks out of the way as more than 100 federal agents are expected to station here near Alameda before deploying to other cities in the Bay Area. Again, everyone here making clear that is not what they want.
I'm ashamed of this country. I'm ashamed of the people that permit ICE from gathering here right now and instituting their Trump-led terror on the United States. This is absolutely outrageous.
Now, some are supporting federal agents here in the Bay Area. We have a statement from the California GOP reads in part, quote, San Francisco has sadly accepted conditions in the city. Market Street is a zombie apocalypse of slumped over drug addicts supplied by all reports by illegal immigrants. America's most beautiful city deserves better. Hopefully, the president's assistance will help restore order. We'll bring you back live out here just in front of the Coast Guard Island. This is along the Embarcadero, right at the border of Oakland and Alameda. We've also heard from the mayors of San Francisco and San Jose, Daniel Lurie and Matt Mahan, both condemning immigration enforcement activity, both saying they don't know the plans of federal law enforcement that will be in the Bay Area. We've also heard from Oakland's Unified School District putting out an advisory expecting ICE activity to ramp up this weekend, reminding parents Oakland is a sanctuary city and agents are not allowed on campus without a warrant. These people here that you see, many of them have come here in just the last hour, many of them saying that they will be here for however long they need to be here for their message to be perfectly clear. Again, traffic along the Embarcadero coming this way at a complete standstill at this point. You see it with me. This red car has been here since the beginning of this report. It has not moved an inch since, and that is how the traffic has flowed for the last few hours. We will be here for the remainder of the morning. Of course, we will bring you updates on what this all looks like as the morning goes on. We are live this morning near Alameda. I'm James Torres, KTVU, Fox 2 News.
All right, James, thank you. And don't forget, you can stay up to date with the latest on the federal agents coming here to the Bay Area with the Fox Local mobile app. It's a free download. We'll be sending push alerts for any major breaking news as this still developing story continues to unfold.
A federal appeals court is reviewing President Trump's deployment of the National Guard across the country. Judges from the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals met yesterday in Pasadena. Legal experts say the courts have tended to give a great level of deference to the president when dealing with incidents described as rebellion. The judges must now consider when the deployments can continue or expand. People signing up for health care benefits for the new year will see the impact of the government shutdown. Idaho is the first state to start open enrollment as health care premiums are expected to rise. The federal tax credits were created through a pandemic-era program and extended through the end of this year. They are the main focus of the government shutdown. Congressional Democrats want to keep the credits. Republicans want to handle them separately from the shutdown. Without a deal, Idaho's insurance managers say their state's premiums will go up 10%. Similar increases could hit other states.
All right, Garcia, time 7:38. The mayors of California's 13 biggest cities are meeting in San Francisco about dealing with the state's most urgent problems. The first ever C13 summit. It includes Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass, San Jose Mayor Matt Mahan, San Francisco Mayor Daniel Lurie, Oakland Mayor Barbara Lee, and San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria. They say the summit aims to unite the mayors on how to deal with homelessness, housing, and economic development.
We know that as big city mayors, we're on the front lines of solving these very real problems in our constituents' everyday lives. And we all agree we need more partnership and more problem solving from Sacramento in order for us to have the impact where it's needed most.
Mayors also say the vision of the summit will be a roadmap for potential collaboration with Governor Newsom and the state legislature.
Time now is 7:39, and we do have very slow traffic on Highway 4, and that's because of a new crash near Willow Pass Road. It's right there over the hill in probably one of the worst spots. It's westbound Highway 4 as you come over the interchange there. If you are driving from Antioch and Pittsburgh, it's not quite backed up from Antioch, but the minute you get into Pittsburgh, you will see slow traffic there. Let's go to the Bay Bridge. I'll show you that traffic is backed up all the way out to the maze. Metering lights are on. San Mateo Bridge has been busy, so all these commutes are pretty busy today, and that includes the South Bay. 7:40, let's bring Steve back with today's weather.
Sal, we'll look back at yesterday's cool high temps. It definitely felt fall-like. We had sunshine and warm temperatures, 80s a couple days ago, and then yesterday they dropped to the 60s and 70s. San Jose and Redwood City did manage to eke out a 70, but Santa Rosa, Napa, Concord 68, Oakland 67, which was warmer than Livermore, and Livermore and San Francisco were both 66. There's a little chill in the morning air this morning. Middletown 40, Kenwood, Healdsburg, Woodside, Boulder Creek, Sonoma, Fairfax, Pinole, you can add Livermore in there, all between 40 and 46 cool degrees. San Rafael will bump up from 68 to 74, same for Pleasant Hill, 68 to 74. Menlo Park from 70 to 73, although it did drop. It could drip or dip to 40. David dripped this morning in Menlo Park, down to 47 now, so we'll go 73 today in San Jose from 70 to 72. Didn't change the city, although the lows continue to be really warm this month. 59, normal's 54. Close on the high. 88, that's it. Sometimes you see, highs that aren't that warm on the record highs. This is one of them, 88, 1965, 45, 1949, and an inch in 41 100ths in 1897. 40s, 50s on the temps. There's a 47 Petaluma. 46 now, Menlo Park. I sold you short there. 48 Concord and Walnut Creek. We are looking for 40s. Now Kenwood's down to 43. Middletown 39. There you go. It doesn't take much to dip down there. So we'll rebound, but we'll see upper 60s, 70s. Looks like a nice day. Everything and all the eyes are on that system coming in for the weekend, but I think everything's going to stay pretty much around Marin County North is the way it looks. We'll go with that for now and fine-tune it next couple of days. Mostly sunny today, highs 60s, 70s. We'll be right back after this.
More now on this morning's breaking news here as federal agents are now arriving at Coast Guard Island, Alameda this morning. Take a look at your screen. These images captured minutes ago here by the KTVU cameras. We see Customs and Border Patrol trucks trying to drive onto the island there in Alameda. A large crowd of people working to block the bridge entrance to the base. We see federal law enforcement sort of pushing protesters out of the way. According to our James Torres, they were given a warning and then what appeared to be a flashbang went off. Again, our James Torres is there. He's one in a number of crews at the scene. We'll keep bringing them back in for live reports throughout the morning. Meanwhile, more than 30 people have been arrested in connection to an FBI illegal gambling investigation. They include Portland Trailblazers head coach Chauncey Billups and Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier. They're due in court this afternoon. Investigators say all the defendants were involved in different schemes that dealt with illegal sports betting and rigged poker games that were backed by the mafia.
Well, time is 7:45. PG&E wants another rate hike, and yesterday held the first in a series of hearings on the proposed rate hike. If it's approved by state energy regulators, it would raise the average bill by $12 a month in 2027 and up to $34 a month by the year 2030. PG&E says the increase will help it improve its extreme weather operations and also modernize its grid. There'll be another virtual hearing today on that proposal.
Berkeley Mayor Adina Ishii gave her first State of the City address and focused on federal immigration enforcement.
I fully believe that Trump intends to send the National Guard here. We must keep in mind this reality. The feds are looking to make an example of us. They want a reason to send the National Guard here. We want to circumvent them. When we protest, we must protest like we always do, peacefully and with intention.
Mayor Ishii says Berkeley has set aside $200,000 for immigrant defense services. She also outlined policies in the Berkeley Unified School District to protect immigrant students and families. The mayor also spoke about homelessness in Berkeley.
I am working with my council colleagues and the city manager to identify and secure funding for safe places for people to live with wraparound services. This is the model that works.
Mayor Ishii noted the city passed a balanced budget without layoffs when faced with a $28 million deficit.
Well, leaders in San Rafael are hitting a roadblock. They're trying to build an affordable housing project. The proposed village would include 65 cabins on Marydale Road that will eventually become permanent housing. San Rafael is facing a state mandate to build more affordable housing, but people who live nearby say they feel left in the dark. And others are worried about the new facility affecting crime in their neighborhood.
Asked about crime statistics, what they're doing for the neighborhood to keep us safe, and we're met with nothing. We're met with show up to this meeting, voice your 2 minutes to talk about your concerns.
We recognize that any new shelter or housing program must be developed thoughtfully and with respect for the surrounding community.
The residents say nearby businesses were informed a lot earlier about the plan. The San Rafael City Council will vote on the housing project November 17th. Then it'll need the approval of the Marin County supervisors after that.
It was a record quarter for EVs, especially here in California.
And Travis Kelce, he's making an investment. It could affect a local amusement park. Pam Cook's in the studio with everything on this in dollars and cents.
People hanging on to a little bit of hope in this announcement. Kansas City Chiefs star and Taylor Swift's fiance, Travis Kelce, just made a move that could save Santa Clara's Great America. Now, he is joining an investment firm that's taking a 9% stake in Six Flags Entertainment with hopes of revitalizing the company and the park. Six Flags merged with Cedar Fair in 2024 and has been struggling with declining attendance and heavy debt. The park in Santa Clara is supposed to close after the 2027 season, so we'll continue to watch that. The opening bell rang in some big corporate earnings this morning. American Airlines reported a loss for the quarter, but the loss was not as bad as analysts predicted. That stock up about 4% right now. As we take a live look at the numbers, though, some mixed earnings reports coming in from IBM and Tesla. But in general, about 3/4 of the companies on the S&P 500 have beat analyst expectations for the quarter. So there's a live look at the Dow up a little bit. The S&P 500 up about 1/3%. The NASDAQ, the big winner this morning, it was down most of the day yesterday, but it's up about 150 points. Beef producers are speaking out after President Trump suggested they lower meat prices. Now, the Trump administration also reports that it plans to increase meat imports from Argentina. Farmers pushed back, saying that the administration is trying to manipulate beef prices. The farmers say they also would rather federal leaders focus on completing the construction of a special facility in Texas. That $750 million facility is expected to conduct work that will fight a parasite that has been threatening livestock. Californians bought a record number of EVs or plug-in hybrids during the third quarter this year. That is likely due to drivers taking advantage of that federal tax incentive before it was eliminated. Californians bought nearly 125,000 EVs or hybrids this quarter, which is the highest since the state started tracking those numbers back in 2008. The top 5 counties with the highest EV sales are all in the Bay Area. Nearly half of the car sales in Santa Clara for the quarter were EV or hybrid. And T-Mobile just reported a blockbuster third quarter, smashing records for customer growth. T-Mobile reports an industry best 2.3 million new customers. That figure includes more than 1 million phone customers, which shows people are definitely switching to their network. I'm Pam Cook. Let's look at your dollars and cents.
Pam, thank you.
Yeah.
7:51. Let's see what's happening in the traffic center. Sal, where are you focused?
All right, it's pretty crowded out there. Garcia and Dave. Westbound Bay Bridge backed up all the way out to the maze. Let me show it to you here. And it's pretty slow, I would say. It's not a great Thursday commute. Almost anywhere you look, a lot of these commutes are very slow. San Mateo Bridge is looking slow right from the beginning all the way out to Foster City. And then Highway 4, we had that crash near Willow Pass Road. It is solid from Summersville Road all the way out to Concord. 7:51, let's talk about today's weather. Here's Steve.
Sal, we will start off with some cool lows there. A lot of 40s showing up. I'll show you some in a second here. Pretty good little fog dancing around, mostly low clouds. Otherwise, it's clear, mostly sunny by noon. It looks good later today with 60s and also 70s. Middletown's dipped to 39. Kenwood, 43. Healdsburg's 44. Woodside, Boulder Creek, Sonoma, Fairfax, Panola, Livermore, and others between 45 and 46 degrees. We are running noticeably colder than 24 hours ago when we had all that cloud cover. Double digits cooler compared to yesterday at 7 a.m. for Santa Rosa, Novato, Concord, Fairfield, and the Napa Airport. So if you're like, hey, I took the dog out, it feels cooler out. It is. Santa Fe, Pleasant Hill, Menlo Park, San Jose, up we go, though, from yesterday's cool temps. 70s today across the board, 72, 73, and 44. Didn't change the city, 66. The lows, though, continue to be much warmer here this month here. 59 average is 54. 88, that's it on the record high in 1965. 40s and Petaluma's 47. Menlo Park, I think they did dip to 46, now 47. Concord, Walnut Creek, 48. Also 46, Walnut Creek. There's Panola, bottomed out at 46, now 47. Danville at 46. 30, Bookends, Truckee, South Lake Tahoe. Alturas, though, 27. Winnemucca, 28. Good to go, except for low clouds. Our system from yesterday, thunderstorm activity has pushed well off into the Four Corners. That's the moisture streaming across that'll play into our weather this weekend. Heaviest North Bay by far. Marin County, San Pablo Bay North looks to be the line. And south of that, there'll be little to not much, but again, could be San Francisco, Oakland, but Motherlode, northern Sacramento Valley, and Santa Rosa North will take the brunt, and most of it, though, will be far to the north. Mostly clear except for that low cloud deck, 60s, 70s on the temps. About the same tomorrow, but we'll get increasing clouds. A lot of clouds, some rain on the weekend, and cool, then it looks like a rebound early next week, Dave.
All right, Steve, thank you. Time is now 7:53. The same vaccines that fought COVID may help fight cancer. We'll tell you what a new study revealed about mRNA shots and the survival rate of cancer patients. In the Bay Area, ready to protect immigrant families. Up next at 8 o'clock, we'll talk to faith leaders in the East Bay, organizing around the clock to empower the undocumented community and even citizens who have a diverse heritage. Welcome back to Mornings on 2. Our time is 7:56. A new study says the mRNA COVID vaccine extended the life of cancer patients. The National Cancer Institute and others funded researchers so they could look at more than 1,000 cancer patients who received immunotherapy after getting the vaccine. The patients had lung and skin cancer. Now, this study found the COVID vaccine rallies the immune system against cancer, almost doubling the survival length of patients. The researchers also point out that mRNA vaccines were not just introduced for COVID and have been studied to treat the flu and other diseases for decades. Well, California has the lowest number of mothers who die in childbirth out of all states in the country. That's according to a new report from the Healthcare Foundation Commonwealth Fund. The risk of dying because of pregnancy-related issues is 4 times higher in Louisiana than it is in California. Washington also has a low rate of mortality, while Tennessee and Arkansas join Louisiana for some of the highest rates. The study found that improving access to maternal care and to doctors would reduce the number of deaths in other states. California is being hit the hardest by the Trump administration's $8 billion Department of Energy funding cut. A Politico study reveals that out of 300 projects that were canceled around the country, 79 of them were in California. That means California lost more than $3 billion in anticipated funding for the state's energy sector. Democratic lawmakers here in California are protesting that, suggesting the cuts were made based on political bias. Well, the devastating wildfires earlier this year in Los Angeles County pushed the cost of disasters in the U.S. to a record high. Just in the first half of 2025 alone, natural disasters cost the country more than $101 billion. That's more than any other year on record. These record losses come as NOAA, which oversees the National Weather Service, has lost hundreds of staff members because of Trump administration's budget cuts. FEMA funds were also cut. But through many battles in court, the agency was able to still have funding for the rest of the year.
If we see these kind of tactics used again or escalated, we will protest.
Protesters are clashing with federal authorities at Coast Guard Island, Alameda, as federal immigration agents deploy to the Bay Area. The showdown already underway this morning, and why more protests are expected. As immigrant activists and volunteers are on high alert this morning, we talk with local Bay Area faith leaders about how they're protecting their communities.
From KTVU Fox 2 News, this is Mornings on 2.
Welcome to Mornings on 2 at 8 o'clock. You're looking live over the San Francisco skyline this morning. Some low clouds hanging on over there. We'll find out what the rest of your day is shaping up to be like in a moment. But first, thanks for joining us. I'm Andre Sr.
I'm Garcia Michaeli. It's a busy one, so let's start with weather. Steve Paulson is here to detail some continued changes in the forecast.
Today we get back to that sunshine. Andre, I've been looking for you about an hour to say hey, and I haven't found you. Now I find you.
Yeah.
Okay. Good morning. Good morning. All right. Gossie's right. We have changes. We were warm. We had clouds. We had cool. We had some rain. Now we're getting mostly sunny skies to partly sunny because of the low cloud deck there. 40s, 50s on the temps here. A lot of 40s, though, this morning, although we'll bounce off. Look at the Pacific Grove, 0.04, Monterey, 0.05, Hollister, 0.04 the Trace and Morgan Hill, but Yosemite had a ½ inch to 2/3 from thunderstorms there. That's where the most rain was that I saw. That system's in Utah now. Yesterday it was here, now it's gone. There's some of your lows this morning, 39 to 46 on the temp. So if you thought it was a little cool, it was, but that'll be your weekend system without question. It looks like the dividing line is going to be Marin County, San Pablo Bay, Vallejo North. South of that, little or probably not much at all is the way it's looking, and you can see that line. Highs today, 60s and also 70s. If you're north, expect rain. If you're south, probably a lot of show and not much go. All right, Sal's here. It's 8 o'clock. He tells us a bridge, a freeway is first and foremost.
Yeah, things are slow everywhere. We're going to go to the freeway, Highway 4. We had a crash near the Willow Pass grade. They moved it to the shoulder, but it's still causing a bit of slow traffic. Then 242 and 680 are slow nearby. We also have a backup at the Bay Bridge, which stretches to beyond the maze. Metering lights are on. And this morning, if you are driving in Oakland, that traffic is going to be slow. 8:01, let's get back to the headlines.
And straight back to that developing story here, as large protests have been confrontational at times outside Coast Guard Island, Alameda this morning. The Trump administration is sending more than 100 federal immigration officials here to the Bay Area.
Protesters already clashing with law enforcement. KTVU's Ali Erasmus live outside that Coast Guard entrance, showing us what's happening there and unfolding right now. Ali?
Well, this protest has grown. I'd say there's probably about 250, maybe 300 people out in front of the entrance to Alameda Coast Guard Island. They've made a circle. Earlier this morning, there were just a few people walking back in that crosswalk directly in front of the entrance. Now you can see the group kind of circles the entire intersection here. Vehicles aren't passing through, at least not the civilian vehicles we've seen here, but there was a little bit of a confrontation here. 2 Customs and Border Patrol agents pulled up in their lawn.
Looks like we may have lost Ali's signal here, but again, she is showing a live look here as protesters are marching and chanting. Things did get physically confrontational. We saw a flashbang go off earlier today. Ali, if you're with us, we'll bring you back. If not, I think we'll have to sort of look ahead and explore what this means for the community, Andre.
All right, Garcia, thank you so much. Protesters, as you hear, they're growing this morning along Coast Guard Base Alameda, where over 100 federal agents are expected to begin arriving today as fear grips the Bay Area ahead of potential immigration raids. Local faith leaders and faith organizations stepping up to support the community. We're joined again this morning by Pastor Todd Benson, Executive Director of Faith in Action East Bay, to discuss how residents can stay safe, know their rights, and keep life moving in the face of this uncertainty. Pastor, thank you so much for joining us again. We didn't expect to have you back on this quickly, but you've been busy this morning. First of all, can you let us know your reaction to seeing all this here? What goes through your mind as a faith leader?
So as a faith leader, we are committed to nonviolence. Yeah. We are committed to the tradition of Gandhi and Dr. Martin Luther King. So from a moral perspective, any kind of violence, we are 100% opposed to. Even apart from that, studies have shown that nonviolent protests are much more effective than violent ones. So I speak for many faith leaders in calling on protesters to stop any form of violence. All it does is it plays into the Trump's administration narrative.
You want them to continue to rally, but just not in the way
we do not,
that has any violence attached to it.
Exactly. No destruction of property, nothing like that, because that's the narrative that the Trump administration is using. They want to have that violence because it gives them an excuse to bring in more people, to bring in the National Guard.
All right, so, as a faith leader yourself that's been dealing with this for the last, what was it, 8 months, 9, 10 months, talk about how you're helping the community and empowering the community in the face of what is happening.
So what we're doing, along with many other organizations, is providing trainings to community members, training to immigrants about their rights. You have the right to remain silent, training them on how to look for a valid federal warrant as opposed to an invalid ICE one. We are training community members to go out, and other groups in particular are training community members to go out and do foot patrols to spot for ICE patrols. We're training folks ourselves on how to determine if law enforcement is ICE versus other vehicles. So we're doing a great deal of training.
In terms of the training here, you're training your volunteers to identify what is a warrant. What is it? What should people look out for? What is it that you're telling them?
It needs to be signed by a federal judge. ICE will often use a warrant that is an ICE administrative warrant.
So you've heard of this before?
Absolutely. Okay. It happens regularly. They will do whatever they can to try and get in. You might have heard of the case in Pennsylvania where they held a 5-year-old child outside the home to get their father to come out of the home. Because
Can they do that? Can they do something like that?
Well, they should not be able to do it. It's illegal, but in my opinion. But what they're trying to do is they don't have a warrant to go in the house in that situation.
But if you step outside of the house,
Absolutely.
that gives them authority to detain you.
Absolutely. So stay in your home unless there's a valid search warrant.
All right, so that's one issue. What is another one of the issues you're doing right now? I want to just dive into everything because everything's unfolding right now. I want to get people to understand what it is that you're out there having your volunteers do. And for those who have not come across your volunteers, I just want them to understand what they can do.
So what we're doing right now, we want to call on all clergy. We are working with an ad hoc group of clergy, preparing something called a wall of clergy. In Los Angeles, the initial narrative from the Trump administration was this is a violent protest. But when clergy started coming out in huge numbers, marching in a vigil, there are pictures of clergy laying roses at the feet of National Guard. So Folks can get information on this on our website. We will be planning something likely next week. The timing isn't determined, but and exactly how it will work, but a big faith vigil and march from multi-faith traditions, and we want to call on all clergy to join us. We'll be inviting the rest of the public as well.
We'll be looking out for that. Right now, though, as your volunteers head out onto the streets, are your volunteers heading to help in these situations in some way, and can you describe how?
So we have, and it's not just us, there are multiple groups across the Bay Area. There are groups that are sending people out on foot patrols today to investigate. We are training people to be rapid responders. There are folks on hotlines. Every county in the 9-county Bay Area has a hotline where folks can call and report ICE, and they will send folks out to investigate. We train people how that investigation process works.
What is it that you all can do when you send people out there to investigate it? Are you there to inform the folks who are perhaps a target of ICE?
We can do that. There will be folks, this will be ramping up in other cities, Chicago and LA. Folks will be notifying the community, banging on pots, blowing whistles, and all of that. We will also be observing from a distance, not engaging with ICE, not taking photos of the person being detained, so that we have full legal observers on scene should they be taking somebody into custody.
All right. Pastor Todd Benson, Executive Director of Faith in Action East Bay, thank you for joining us this morning. We appreciate it as this situation continues to unfold.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
So more on that breaking news here. Straight back to our Ali Rasmus, live outside Coast Guard Island, Alameda. This is where a group protesting the arrival of federal agents is growing. We've seen some tense moments in recent minutes. Back to you now, Ali.
Yeah, as I mentioned, about 250 protesters now in front of the entrance to Coast Guard Island here on the Alameda-Oakland City line. Showing you a look around, the tone here and the atmosphere is much more relaxed than it was just about 45 minutes ago when there was a confrontation between some Customs and Border Patrol officers and some of the protesters in the crosswalk. I'll show you that in just a second. First, I want to paint the scene out here. You can see people with their signs. There's some people using balloon sculptures, other people dressed up in costume. You can hear music here, someone singing some songs, leading the group in some songs here. And there's also a person over there who is actually painting and live painting some of the protesters who were here earlier when this confrontation happened. Now, as you know, all this activity happening here at Coast Guard Island because this is where the Trump administration has sent about 100 immigration officials to conduct some immigration enforcement operations here. And Coast Guard Island here in Alameda is supposed to be their base of operations. Now, that confrontation I mentioned, it happened about 45 minutes ago. 2 Customs and Border Patrol agents pulled up to the blocked entrance. They honked their horns. They got out of their vehicles. They were clearly in identifiable vests that said Customs and Border Patrol enforcement, and they had gaiters on covering their faces. They told the protesters to move so that they and at least 7 other vehicles behind them could drive in. When that didn't happen, this is what followed. That was the first of 2 flashbang grenades deployed by those Customs and Border Patrol agents at the entrance to Coast Guard Island in Alameda. There was also smoke bombs deployed. At that point, some of the protesters had to disperse and the agents were able to drive in. Now, again, this protest in response to reports that the Trump administration has sent 100 federal immigration officials here to the Bay Area, that they will be based here at Alameda's Coast Guard Island. DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, told KTVU in a statement that it is, quote, targeting the worst of the worst criminal aliens, end quote. However, local leaders and civil rights groups simply don't believe that is truly the agency's objective here.
We know that that is not true. We know citizens are being picked up. We know people with green card holders are being picked up. Quite frankly, we know that if you are brown or black in this community, that you will be targeted, and that's why we have to come out and say, no, we must protect the sacred dignity of every one of our community members, regardless of their immigrant status.
Now again, back out here live, this is the entrance to Alameda's Coast Guard Island, and earlier this morning, before there were so many protesters out here, there were a group just walking in the crosswalk here. Now you can see their numbers have grown, I'd say 200 to 250 folks out here, and earlier there were some civilian vehicles and some people trying to drive into Coast Guard Island. There are a lot of civilian jobs here on the island, and we talked to someone who worked at one of the daycares here on the island who said she was called early this morning and told told that the daycare was not going to be open because they were expecting some protests and some activity here. But earlier, when a lot of those regular people were just trying to drive in, there was a big backup getting to the entrance. Now, most of those vehicles have turned around and gone home. So the only people really getting through to Coast Guard Island are those 8 vehicles that we saw around 7:15 this morning that were clearly identified as Customs and Border Patrol agents driving into Coast Guard Island. Gassi and Andre, we'll send it back to you.
All right, thank you so much, Allie. We'll check in with you shortly. As it is a developing story here, we are expected to change throughout the day here as the story continues to develop. Just check with the Fox local app, download it for your phone or your smart TV, and you can watch our coverage throughout the day.
We'll, of course, keep following this developing situation. Protest happening here in the Bay Area. In just minutes here, another live report from the scene. We have just confirmed in our newsroom after speaking with a federal source, there are about 100 U.S. Customs and Border Protection agents here in the Bay Area said to be conducting an operation with pre-identified targets. We're getting more information. We'll bring it to you on the other side of a short break.
Jacoby & Myers has been a proud part of the California community since 1972. We've stood by our neighbors, helping hundreds of thousands of families get the justice they deserve. Whether it's fighting insurance companies or fighting for you in court, we'll stand up for you. At Jacoby & Myers, we know the stakes: your family, your health, your future. For over 50 years, we've been California's trusted name in legal care. If you've been injured, call us today at 1-800-5-MILLION, because you deserve justice.
Staying on top of that breaking news happening right now in Alameda this morning, some 200 demonstrators working to prevent federal immigration agents from entering Coast Guard Island, Alameda. We've seen people holding signs and banners, others actually blocking the crosswalk. About an hour ago, this happened, a physical confrontation. Protesters were warned to stay back, and then a flashbang. That flashbang caused the crush of people to briefly scatter. They have since gathered again. There's no official word yet on any arrests or injuries. And we should note here, we've really seen tensions ebb and flow throughout the morning.
Let's go back to KTVU's James Torres now. He is following the latest. James, what are you learning there?
Well, I can tell you at this point, traffic is just not moving here. The people who are out here, the protesters, are no longer walking just back and forth on that one crosswalk that was in front of Coast Guard Island. They've now taken all 4 crosswalks, the entire square here. You see them holding signs, many of them. The message pretty straightforward and clear, reading, no ICE or troops in the bay, stay out of here. Some going as far to say, what would your mother, your father, your grandmother think? On the other side of this line, you see a number of officers with the U.S. Coast Guard. They have been trying to keep an eye on everyone. One, making sure they don't actually enter the island. And two, at one point, trying to see if they can let cars pass through. That is not much of an option anymore. I want to give you a better idea of who it is that's out here and who we've been talking to. I'm going to approach this woman here. Hey, Catherine. Catherine, thanks for speaking with us here. We're live on the air right now. Can you just tell us why you're here this morning?
Yeah, I'm actually a labor union leader, and we understand fundamentally that an injury to one is an injury to all. Everybody here and the thousands of people who've been organizing, expecting that ICE is here now to terrorize our communities. We protect our communities. We don't need ICE here. We don't need these federal agents. We keep each other safe. And it's outrageous that they're here to terrorize families, people who are hardworking, and absolutely the entire California labor movement stands with them.
It's about 8 o'clock this morning. I think you've been here for quite a little while. Why be up so early on a Thursday morning to be here?
Because ICE agents are moving in today. They're posting up at Coast Guard Island, and they need to hear clearly that we here in the Bay are telling them they've got to stay away. We don't need them. They got to get out. It starts right now and it goes until they're gone.
For the school of thought that says ICE agents are dangerous, that they are here to do a job that past administrations have tried to do, what do you say to that?
I say take a look at the news, all the stories, the way that they've terrorized families here and across this country. Dragging kids out of a building in the middle of the night, barely dressed, and zip tying them on a corner. Is that safety? I don't think so. People who are just trying to go to work, trying to feed their families, scared to take their kids to school, getting picked up while they try to pick up their kids from school or go to hospitals, that's not safety. These agents are masked, they have no identity, they come in breaking the laws, they don't have warrants, that's not safety.
We have about 2 people who are reporting injuries so far. One man says a federal agent's car hit him in the leg. Another man, we saw a smoke bomb explode in his face. When you hear about that happening at demonstrations like this, I mean, does that not scare you, make you nervous? What does that make you feel?
We're here because everyone's got reason to be afraid. That's a good example why. But it's why we're all turning out in big numbers. We are peaceful. People are out here singing. We've got clergy, and we're driven by a higher purpose. We love each other and defend each other.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. Thank you. We really appreciate it. Again, an example of what we're seeing out here, what we have been seeing out here for several hours now. I did speak to that man who had that smoke bomb blown up in his face. He says he's a local reverend here. You'll hear from him coming up in the next 15 minutes. We'll send it back to you in the studio.
All right, James, thank you very much. Let's try and get you out the door to work if you have to go. We're going to start in the East Bay right now. Westbound Highway 4 does have a long backup because of an earlier crash at the Willow Pass grade. 680 and 242, slow traffic there. And the Bay Bridge still backed up, although things beginning to get maybe a little better as traffic is moving better and some people are not showing up in the huge numbers. Northbound 880 is slow past the Coliseum. At 8:20, what about today's weather? Let's bring Steve back in.
All right, Sal, thank you. It's a mix of either clear skies or some fog, byproduct of yesterday's system. Some low clouds hanging around, 40s and 50s, although I think we bounced off the morning lows. San Rafael, Pleasant Hill, Menlo Park, San Jose, from 60s or soft 70s yesterday to 74, 74, 73, and 72 on the forecast highs. 66, 56 for the city, average 69, 54, so close. 88, that's it, the record high 1965. And 1.47 fell on this date in 1897. There goes our system from yesterday. Left some pretty good rain totals there, thunderstorms in Yosemite, but it's long gone now. It's moved out. We're in between, the twixt and the tween here. Our next system is beginning to show itself. It won't arrive until early Saturday, and again, the line is about San Francisco, Golden Gate, San Pablo Bay, Vallejo, around there north. So, I mean, that by Saturday morning, if you're north, there'll be some rain going. If you're south, no, probably a lot of cloud cover. Eventually, though, it looks like that's going to stay around the line. If you're going north, going to be some moderate to heavy amounts, but south, just I don't think San Jose, Santa Clara Valley will get in on too much here. Today, though, will be nice, very nice. Patchy low clouds, otherwise more sun today and a little warmer. 60s, 70s on the temps. Look for a similar day on Friday, then changes with clouds and some rain on the weekend. We'll be back right after this.
At 8:24, following this morning's breaking news here, federal agents are arriving at Coast Guard Island, Alameda right now. Our cameras captured the moments Customs and Border Patrol trucks tried to drive onto the island there. A large crowd blocked the bridge, the base itself. Federal law enforcement pushed protesters out of the way. Then what appears to be a flashbang also went off.
The Department of Homeland Security sent a statement to KTVU about the upcoming operation, saying, quote, DHS is targeting the worst of the worst criminal illegal aliens, including murderers, rapists, gang members, pedophiles, and terrorists in cities such as Portland, Chicago, Memphis, and San Francisco. As it does every day, DHS law enforcement will enforce the laws of our nation, end quote. Governor Newsom says he opposes the deployment.
It's the authoritarian playbook. You announce your intention to send the military to streets, doing domestic policing operations. You wildly overstate or completely make up crime statistics that are not real, that do not justify such action. And for this administration, you send first masked men to the cities that you want to militarize.
The governor said Bay Area cities are making progress in reducing crime and federal enforcement is not needed. We'll stay on top of the story all morning long on Mornings on 2, and you can download the Fox Local app for more on this breaking story.
We need comprehensive commitments to ending both poverty and violence. Sending in our troops is not how we get there.
Outraged by Bay Area leaders as a federal immigration operation is getting underway. We have just confirmed through a federal source there are about 100 U.S. Customs and Border Protection agents in the Bay Area for an operation with pre-identified targets. What that could look like next.
We stand at the ready to stand with our immigrant community members and ensure that they have access to as much as we can provide.
Fear and uncertainty wrapping up across the Bay Area. What's happening at a protest run out at the entrance of Coast Guard Island, Alameda. We now know 2 people there have been injured. We're also exploring how people are weighing whether they can go about their business amid fears of being confronted by federal agents. Meanwhile, why the same federal court that once supported the president's power to deploy National Guard troops to other states may now be reversing that opinion.
From KTVU Fox 2 News, this is Mornings on 2.
Good morning and welcome back. I'm Gassia Mikaelian.
I'm Andre Sr. Today is Thursday, October 23rd. Before we get to the story that's developing throughout this morning here, we want to get you caught up on the weather and traffic throughout the Bay Area. Let's start with Steve Paulson in the Weather Center for us this morning. Steve.
All right, you guys, mix of some low clouds, some sun already. Our system from yesterday is all the way into the Four Corners, but a little bit of cool this morning, a lot of 40s on the temps, but the city's at 56, 51, Livermore, Palo Alto, 51, cloudy, San Jose area 54, but up we go. San Rafael, Pleasant Hill, Menlo Park, San Jose to 70s after 60s and 70s yesterday. Just a little jump today. That system, they'll give it credit. Pretty good thunderstorms now long gone. Looks like a nice day today after we clear that low cloud deck. That's your weekend system now beginning to move into the Pacific Northwest. Rain won't start until Saturday morning. So today and tomorrow are good to go, but Saturday morning we'll start the process. Most of this looks to be about San Francisco, Oakland, Concord, Vallejo North, but I'll deal with it on Friday. Today after the patchy low clouds, sunny and a little warmer, 60s to 70s on those temps. All right, Sal's here. It's 8:31. Where are we going, Sal?
Let's go to the South Bay, Steve. We do have a lot of slow traffic there. Not that many crashes, although we've had a few minor ones. It's still very slow, though. if you're just wondering what it's going to be like to get to your job in Sunnyvale, Cupertino, or Palo Alto, or in that area. Right now, we also see the San Mateo Bridge and the Dumbarton Bridge are slow, so it's still not a great commute. Sometimes by this time we have improvement. We're not having a lot of improvement, although we're having some improvement at the Bay Bridge, believe it or not. That's improving a little bit here at the toll plaza. 8:31, let's get back to the headlines.
We continue to follow that breaking news right now. Federal officers are already in the Bay Area. Demonstrators clashing with them outside Alameda's Coast Guard Island as those vehicles try to get onto the base. Take a look. You heard that there's someone throwing a flashbang into all of this right now as all those protesters, at least 200 of them, gather outside that Coast Guard station. James Torres, he is live in the middle of it all, talking to the folks out there who are part of the demonstration. He joins us now with much more on what is happening there. James, if you can hear me, can you tell us what's happening there now?
Yeah, Andre, I'm with you. I'm sorry, we're a little distracted. There's a gentleman who just pulled up to the protest area. He slammed his car door, stepped on his brakes, got out of the car, walked into the protest, starts yelling at some of these protesters. I have no idea who he is, who he's with, or what the argument's all about. He may just be frustrated that he can't get his car through. He's yelling at some of these protesters, getting in their faces. They're arguing back with him. I don't think he has anything to do with federal law enforcement or these federal agents that are expected to be here today. It looks like he's just someone who is not able to drive through, not able to pass through the traffic, who's just frustrated that these protesters are blocking this entire intersection. That is the case at this point here. At first, they started off just walking back and forth from crosswalk to crosswalk from in front of Coast Guard Island. They've now taken up the entire intersection using all four crosswalks at the intersection. Looks like he's now demanding that some of these people move out of the way so he can pass through. He's being pretty aggressive about it, and folks are being aggressive back. They're yelling profanities at each other, and looks like he's now making the U-turn to get out of here and turn around. That is the reality of where we are right now. Traffic is not at all moving through this part of the Embarcadero. If you are at any point supposed to pass through Coast Guard Island, that's just not going to happen because this protest has it all shut down here. Here's what we're looking at. This is the front of the island. You see the law enforcement that's standing on the other side, holding the line. They are making sure that these protesters don't actually cross onto the bridge here. They're no longer trying to make sure that cars pass through. We've seen a combination of U.S. Coast Guard police officers. We've seen what looked like some Border Patrol officers here earlier this morning. And earlier, those officers on the scene, hoping to try to disperse some of the people so they could let the cars through, blasted some flashbangs that were really loud and spooked some of the protesters that were here. Well, so we had at least 2 flashbangs that went off. We saw a smoke bomb go off on a man's face. We actually spoke to that man. He says he's a local pastor out of Oakland, here protesting peacefully.
And I came just saying we're here in peace, and he didn't care. So there's nothing else to say. Then clearly he wanted to cause harm to me.
And some are supporting federal agents in the Bay Area. A statement from the California GOP read in part, San Francisco has sadly accepted conditions in the city. Market Street is a zombie apocalypse of slumped over drug addicts supplied by all reports by illegal immigrants. America's most beautiful city deserves better. Hopefully the president's assistance will help restore that order. Obviously the protesters here do not agree with that whatsoever. I'll bring you back live and I'll show you something that I really did not expect to see out here this morning. Quite a bit of entertainment. There's a man on the other corner who is painting. There's people who are dressed up in a number of different costumes. You see the woman here dressed as Wonder Woman. Another woman with face paint on. She has been doing balloon animals. She's been juggling. She's been trying to provide entertainment for people here who are here protesting, who have been here for several hours now. Back to the politics. We've also heard from mayors Daniel Lurie of San Francisco and Matt Mahan of San Jose, both condemning immigration enforcement activity. Oakland's Unified School District also putting out an advisory expecting ICE activity to be heightened. They mentioned specifically this weekend, this Saturday, also reminding parents Oakland is a sanctuary city and agents are not allowed on campus without a warrant. That is what the scene looks like here. It's certainly much more calm, much more peaceful than it was just about an hour and a half ago when we saw those flashbangs taking off and those smoke bombs going off. We also heard that there was a man who had his foot run over by a federal immigration enforcement car. We had a chance to speak with him as well. He says that his ankle was hurting, that he's not sure if the car did it intentionally or if it was just someone just trying to power the way through the crowd. So far, we haven't heard anything about any arrests. We haven't really seen any police officers out here other than the federal agents on the other side of this protest line. We will be here all morning. We will continue to bring you these updates on what's going on out here just in front of the Coast Guard Island here near Alameda. We'll send it back to you, Andre and Garcia.
Tense situation that continues to unfold hours later. James, thank you. None of this. For weeks, we have heard the Trump administration suggesting activating the National Guard in the Bay Area. Local leaders condemn that. And now, all of a sudden, the attention is shifting to how to prepare for immigration raids and enforcement. We heard from San Francisco Supervisor Jackie Fiedler, who represents the Mission, a neighborhood home to many undocumented immigrants.
Basically, we see a shutdown the level that we have seen in COVID.
The first message to people is that the life has to continue. They should send their kids to their school. They should go to work.
Well, as James might have mentioned there, the school district in Oakland put out an advisory saying it's received official word that immigration and customs enforcement will ramp up. It reminds parents OUSD is a sanctuary district and federal agents are not allowed on campus without an active warrant. Now, earlier on Mornings on 2, Dave Clark spoke with immigration attorney Jonathan Dutent, to talk more about the deployment of federal agents. Take a look.
And how do you size up how this deployment here in the Bay Area is beginning?
Well, it's pretty early to tell since they've mentioned 100 coming out. I've heard they expect as many as 2,500 before too long. Right now we have, from what I understand, DHS officers, but there's been talk that ultimately the National Guard would be called up. And that's where I think the legal issue is going to become more poignant, because we're going to be asking whether the circumstance on the ground is sufficient to justify invoking Title 10 and the Insurrection Act to support and justify the president's authority to make that call.
And what's your advice for the protesters like the ones we just saw in Ali Rasmussen's report? How should they behave? How should they approach what's happening now?
Well, I think it's going to be a fine line between exercising our First Amendment rights and not impeding lawful enforcement operations. And so it's going to be upon each individual to try and determine for themselves if they are attempting to obstruct a lawful operation or not. And so it's going to be a tough decision. That's going to be a case by case.
Yeah. And are you concerned about what may happen at Bay Area schools with these operations underway now?
Absolutely. We've seen this before with previous enforcement operations in the past. It's created quite a bit of fear amongst the community, kept families from taking their children to school, going to work. So I think that we are going to see a significant change in our community's landscape in the next couple of weeks.
The federal appeals court is reviewing President Trump's deployment of the National Guard to states across the country. Judges from the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals met yesterday in Pasadena. Legal experts say the courts have tended to give a great level of deference to the president when dealing with incidents described as a rebellion. The same judges must now consider when the deployments can continue or expand. 8:40 here. We are staying on top of a developing story here. More live reports coming from the scene at the entrance of Coast Guard Island, Alameda. We have just confirmed through a federal source there are some 100 U.S. Customs and Border Protection agents in the Bay right now. They're said to be conducting an operation with pre-identified targets. We do hope you stay with us.
And new this morning, several huge names in the NBA arrested in a massive gambling bust. The coach and player detained by the FBI. All right, we continue to follow that breaking story this morning at 8:44 a.m. Federal agents arriving at Coast Guard Island, Alameda this morning. These are live pictures from the scene. Protesters, roughly 200 of them gathering, holding signs, letting them know that they're not welcomed in the Bay Area. Our cameras capturing the moment Customs and Border Patrol trucks tried to drive into the island. A huge crowd blocked the bridge, the base, federal law enforcement pushing protesters away, and what appeared to be a flashbang went off during the middle of all of this. This was a short time ago. Over 100 agents are expected to arrive here. Protesters are making it clear they do not want these federal agents here. We'll continue to follow the story throughout the morning. Cassia.
Immigrants' rights lawyers are among those closely watching this morning's protest at Coast Guard Island, Alameda. While protesters are facing off with federal agents, many other people are working to stay very much under the radar, hoping not to be targeted by the 100 or so Customs and Border Patrol agents that KTVU has confirmed are now in the Bay Area. Let's welcome to the newscast Monique Berlanga, Executive Director of Centro Legal de la Raza, based in Oakland's Fruitvale District. The organization works to advance civil and human rights with free access to legal services. What do you make of what's happening just a stone's throw from where we are?
Yeah, so at Centro, we operate and we're the backbone for the Rapid Response Network in Alameda County. So we have been really focused on just preparing and making sure that we have extra staff on the hotline, we have extra attorneys available, and that we can be present all over the county as events continue to play out. So that's what we're really focused on right now, is making sure we can play that support role for folks and making sure that we are spreading the word and information out so that folks in the community can be prepared.
So you're not there, let's say, at the entrance to Coast Guard Island?
Not today,
Okay.
not today. Right now, we are partnering a lot with folks who are on the ground at various sites where we anticipate there could be enforcement actions. For instance, Home Depots. We're partnering with folks doing Adopt a Corner or present at other sites, flea markets, car washes, or other potentially vulnerable target sites right now.
And you're working to help people who clearly would not have access to lawyers otherwise. What sort of issues do you expect to come up with this ramped up federal enforcement?
Yeah. Well, right now, again, we don't know what to expect. What we've seen happen in other jurisdictions is just a bypassing of constitutional rights and due process, just sweeps. I think, as we know, unfortunately, the Supreme Court recently opened the door to racial profiling, to making that allowable when conducting immigration sweeps. So we just want to be prepared so that folks know how to record and document any enforcement activities, and that they can report it to us, that they know about their local rapid response networks and how we can be of support. If somebody is arrested by ICE, then we would like somebody to call the rapid response hotline so that we can send attorneys, rapid response attorneys, immigration attorneys over to the ICE processing center to help provide emergency legal support and to help the family with navigation after any activity.
About an hour and 20 minutes ago or so, in the 7 o'clock hour, we had a reporter live at the scene. There was a flashbang that went off after sort of more of a verbal than a physical confrontation between protesters and what we believe were federal agents. What do you say to people when it comes to those very heated moments?
Yeah, absolutely right. And I mean, I think this is a strategy to breed fear and sow chaos and to try to, bait community members into aggression. Which
you're saying the feds are agitating protesters?
Absolutely. I think that's the intent here, right? To try to draw an excuse to bring in further militarization of federal enforcement. So I think this region, we have a long history of nonviolent resistance and protest and organizing. I have faith that our Bay Area community will stand together in solidarity and nonviolent protest, and make sure that we can stand side by side in solidarity with our community.
I got a note from Oakland Unified, as did thousands of others, about the weighing that parents are doing. Should I send my child to school? What if I'm not here when they get back? Tell me how families of young children in particular are dealing with today's events.
Absolutely. I've been in touch with various school districts already this morning, and they've seen their enrollment numbers today, or there's a lot of kids missing. Okay. A lot of kids didn't go to school today, and I understand the fear, right? We are advising families to make sure that you have a family preparedness plan. You can go, there's many online. You can go to aclip.org, which is our Alameda County Rapid Response Network, to make sure you have a plan in place for who's going to take care of your children in the event that you were arrested by ICE and put into detention, to make sure that you have copies of your documents and somebody knows where they are, that you've memorized the rapid response hotline number, and that you have copies of all your important documents somewhere where somebody knows where they're at. I think it's a tough risk, or it's a tough situation to be in. Every person's going to have to weigh their individual risk to determine whether they feel safe going out into the community right now. And, we respect everybody's decisions there. But again, it is unfortunate that the Supreme Court did open the door to racial profiling, which really just broadens the risk for many folks who might have felt safer being in the community during these moments in time right now.
There's a march and rally that's planned for Oakland's Fruitvale District in the afternoon hours. What are you preparing for in advance of that?
Yeah, again, our role is to be the rapid response network, to be able to respond to the enforcement activities. So whenever there's an action like that, well, our office is right based in the Fruitvale, so we will be, right there kind of front and center. However, it just means that we want to make sure we have extra staff on the hotline. We already have been inundated with calls this morning already. There's just palpable fear in the community.
Do you have enough people?
Well, I will say we're running a pretty bare bones operations. We were fortunate last week to have a large scale infusion of resources authorized by Alameda County to expand the hotline. But in a few days, it's been challenging to really scale. So it's all hands on deck with all of the partner organizations, pulling in staff, pulling in volunteers. There's going to be a volunteer training tonight that Faith in Action East Bay is going to be holding so that we can expand our pool of volunteers. But we are doing everything we can to make sure that we have enough staff on the line. And there is also a lot of mutual aid happening amongst immigration attorneys in the region, coordinating, because we don't know where these enforcement actions will take place. So, for instance, if they're in San Francisco, Alameda County attorneys will provide support to San Francisco, San Mateo, Santa Clara, likewise. So that's the coordination that we're doing, and we're keeping an eye on when these moments of crowds and vulnerability in certain particular areas are, so that we can make sure we have the resources dedicated there.
All right, we appreciate your time and coming here to talk with us. I appreciate the information you've given.
Thank you.
Right, very good. Monique Berlanga from Centro Legal de la Raza. On your screen, we are going to pop up some numbers here for the Bay Area Rapid Response Effort. This is where you can call if a loved one is being detained or if you yourself need immigration help. There's also more information at KTVU. KTVU.com. As we monitor developments and bring them to you live throughout mornings on 2, you can also download the Fox Local app for your phone, TV, and tablet. If you sign up for push alerts, you'll get first word on any major breaking news.
Time now is 8:50. If you're still trying to get out the door right now, let's go right to the Bay Bridge, which has improved a little bit. That's the only one that's improved, unfortunately. We still have a lot of slow traffic all over the place. I think a lot of people may be stuck in Oakland. Northbound 880 pretty slow. San Mateo Bridge improving a little bit here, and the South Bay commute does have some improvement, but not much as you get over to the West Valley. Let's bring Steve in now with today's weather.
Sal, either sun or low clouds. The bulk of the low clouds going right down the 880 corridor down to San Jose and the Santa Clara Valley, with some on the San Mateo coast, a little bit up in Marin County, but that's by far and away the most there. As we go north, there's a lot more clearing, although Santa Rosa has a little bit of fog. So there's some fog dancing around with some sun mix in there. 40s, 50s, a little cool this morning. We'll end up being a little bit warmer today. I mean, more so than yesterday when it was unseasonably cool. Dropped down to the 60s, a little bit below average here for many. Today we'll go low 70s to a few mid 70s, but you got to get that sun. If that sun doesn't show up until noon or so, then probably take it 2 or 3 degrees off some of these highs. Looks good today, and most of tomorrow then we'll deal with that system coming in on the weekend, which will give us some rain on Saturday. It looks like around San Francisco, Oakland, Vallejo, Concord North looks to be your best bet. South of that, probably not much. North of that, though, there could be some decent amounts. Today will be nice, very nice compared to yesterday. A lot of low clouds, but more sun today. It'll be a little warmer, and highs will trend in the 60s to low 70s. We'll have more news coming up after this.
.54, we're still following breaking news here in the East Bay as a large group of protesters is outside Coast Guard Island, Alameda. We have learned 2 protesters say they were hurt while trying to stop Customs and Border Protection agents from heading to the island. One says someone ran over his foot, another was impacted by a flashbang. All morning, traffic's been backed up leading to the island because of these protests. There are many civilians who work on Coast Guard Island. We spoke with a woman who works at a daycare there. She said she got a call this morning telling her the daycare will be closed.
Not to come in.
Did they say why?
I guess it's, all this happening, it's safety issues, And you want to keep children safe. You want to keep the parents safe.
What do you think about federal immigration enforcement officers coming here?
What am I supposed to think? That's their business. It's not my business. I can't do nothing about it, so I can't make them stop. That's the government. This is a government property. If that's where they're supposed to go, then that's where they're supposed to go.
The Trump administration's immigration action here in the Bay Area follows similar operations in cities such as Chicago, Portland, Los Angeles. The president has been signaling for weeks that the Bay Area was on his target list. We'll have more, of course, on this morning's big developing story throughout the day.
8:55 new this morning, an NBA head coach and a current player were arrested in connection to a federal gambling investigation. Chauncey Billups played for the Detroit Pistons before becoming the coach of the Portland Trail Blazers, and Terry Rozier is a guard with Miami Heat, both taken into custody and scheduled to appear in court later this afternoon. Federal authorities held a news conference a short time ago, which included FBI Director Kash Patel.
This is an illegal gambling operation and sports rigging operation that spanned the course of years. The FBI led a coordinated takedown across 11 states to arrest over 30 individuals today responsible for this case, which is very much ongoing.
Authorities say a total of 31 people are charged with various schemes involving illegal sports betting to rigged poker games. Billups was indicted on charges of rigging underground poker games backed by the mafia. The Warriors are scheduled to play the Portland Trail Blazers in Oregon tomorrow night.
The biggest name in the Democratic Party joined Governor Newsom for a live-streamed event supporting Proposition 50 as voters have less than 2 weeks now to turn in their ballots. Former President Barack Obama joined Governor Newsom, urging voters to say yes to 50, which would temporarily change California's congressional districts in favor of Democrats. Mr. Obama accused President Trump and Republicans nationwide of trying to skew the 2026 midterm elections in their favor while protecting themselves from potential voter backlash.
Our current president and his administration is explicitly saying that we want to change the rules of the game midstream in order to insulate ourselves from the people's judgment.
Thank you for being here, and everybody, thank you for tuning in.
Prop 50 is in response to Texas Republicans redrawing their congressional map to favor Republicans at President Trump's request.
Speaking of which, North Carolina lawmakers have given final approval to a new congressional map backed by President Trump. The plan is expected to help Republicans pick up an extra House seat next year by adding more conservative voters to the state's only swing district, which is currently held by a Democrat. The GOP already holds 10 of North Carolina's 14 seats. That plan cannot be vetoed by North Carolina's Democratic governor. Legal challenges expected. Other Republican-led states aren't having any luck passing their own new congressional maps. Indiana Republicans say they do not have enough support to pass their redistricting effort. Indiana drew its current map back in 2021, and the next update isn't due until after 2030. The Indiana Black Legislative Caucus says a change would dilute black voting power and would impact specific areas, including East Chicago and Gary.
U.S. senators will take up another vote today to end the government shutdown. It is not expected to pass. Both sides remain deadlocked, with Democrats calling on Republicans to extend health insurance subsidies, Republicans refusing to do so until the government is reopened. The Senate will also hold a vote on a bill to pay essential federal workers who are working without getting paid. A quick pause here, but we will be back. It is a very, very busy morning, especially here in the East Bay along Alameda's Coast Guard Island. Protests against federal agents now in the Bay Area focused on immigration enforcement. We'll have much more throughout the morning and certainly coming up on the 9, which starts in 60 seconds.
A developing situation in the East Bay. Federal immigration officers arrived at Coast Guard Island in Alameda as protesters move in, clashing with authorities.
A lot of it is illegal and it's immoral.
From Alameda to San Jose, protesters are mobilizing as demonstrators are demanding federal immigration